Welcome to LA. It's basically just LA, but from what I've heard, it's actually less of a giant shithole. We play as Amy, a track athlete that needs to escape LA so that she can join the Paralympic team so that they can continue to make more questionable TikToks.
I say right foot, 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 I say right foot.
Unfortunately, while on the plane out of the city, one of the passengers gets zombified, which leads to the plane getting shot down. Somehow, I survive and I wake up with a large piece of metal wedged in my stomach. I make the stunning and brave decision to rip it out immediately, which causes me to bleed out and die tragically. Just kidding, I actually survived ripping out the large piece of metal somehow and stumbled my way to the nearest medkit. With the help of some Jack Daniels, heroin and a nicotine patch, my wound is miraculously healed. On our way out of the crash, we find some survivors. Emma John, a famous film star, and her assistant Michael. Oh yeah, and there's this guy too.
You know you got all like blood coming out of your ears.
What? I can't hear you. I got blood coming out of my ears.
We then find two other survivors trapped underneath some rubble. We try to free the guy, but to no success. Poor effort honestly, I probably could have lifted that with just my pinky. Emma then gives me her address before they all flee back to her home. Instead of giving up on the other survivors, I decide to ask this nice gentleman for help. But when I do, he tries to attack me because, big surprise, the guy standing in the corner grunting and moaning to himself is actually a zombie. I quickly take care of him before I'm ambushed by more zombies, which I also have to kill. After all that, I return to the two survivors. I try to hydrate the woman, but it turns out she was more hungry than thirsty, and she takes a little nibble out of my arm, presumably infecting me. Now, what follows afterwards is probably a bit too much for YouTube, so instead I'll just say that we resolved our differences, everyone lived, and I calmly left the situation and headed for Emma's house in Bel Air. Upon arrival, I'm held up at gunpoint by what I can only assume to be a supermodel and the new love of my life. Overwhelmed by such immaculate beauty, I faint and wake up handcuffed to a treadmill. Emma and I then have a cheeky chat when Michael bursts in and says that the home is under attack by zombies. Seeing as I'm the only competent person in the house, I get up, clear out the zombies and shut the gate. This is also the part where I discover the true extent to this game's gore.
My god, you can oh my god, you can, oh my god. Are you good? Oh my god. Ew, the eyeballs hanging out, ew. Ew,
yeah, threw a crowbar at a cunt's face and his jaw was hanging off his face.
Yuck,
Right, shut up, I'm trying to listen.
I head back downstairs to tell Emma the good news, and that's where we're reintroduced to the best character in the whole entire game. It's Sam B.
Who do you voodoo, bitch?
Yeah.
One of the playable characters from the first game. He tells us all about the zombie virus and how to survive it. It's here that we also find out that we're actually immune. We head back upstairs where Sam teaches us the basics of zombie survival, like how to upgrade and repair our weapons. After that, we head back out where we can finally group up with our partner for this journey. Senior Papa Giddy, aka Connor, aka Fat Cunt.
Hello, my friending.
Okay. Connor plays as Ryan, and from what he tells me, Ryan's a male stripper who needs to escape LA so he can reunite with his brother. Kinda lame if you ask me, Paralympics a bit cooler, but you know, it's whatever. Our first mission together is to go to the Halpern Hotel so we can find some authorities and tell them that we're immune for a chance to escape. We get there and find that the place is overrun by zombies, which probably isn't the best sign. We clear out the foyer and find a radio in the ballroom locked behind a reinforced door. We search the hotel, killing every rotten bastard we see when we come across a dead military commander who had keys for the ballroom, giving us access. Using the radio, we talk to a fella named Dr. Reed who's held up in Santa Monica. We tell him that we're immune and he tells us to rock up so that he can run some tests on us to try to find a cure, and he says in return he'll shout us a free bag. But in the middle of our call, we're interrupted by this big mamacita. Throughout the game, different zombies will be introduced as mini boss fights and will later be roaming around LA. All these zombies have their own unique name, but we didn't really pay much attention, so instead we just came up with our own names. For these big fuckers, we came up with the most inventive name we could think of. Big fuckers. They're just the big tanky enemy, which can do a big grand slam to knock us over. After defeating what I can just assume is the average Russian woman, we head back to Emma to tell her the news. Instead of jumping on the idea of getting away out of LA, she decides to bitch and moan and says she's not making any decisions without Michael. We go to his room to look for him, but instead we just come across the love of my life again. After flirting for a bit, she tells us that Michael went back to his house in Beverly Hills. I tell her I love her, and we head off to Beverly Hills to try find the little prick. We get there, and he's not home. We look around his place and find a couple clues that say some chick named Jessie might know where he is. We rock up to her place, and it turns out she's not there either. Her mum and this rocker dude are though, and they tell us where we might find her. We eventually catch up with her, and Michael's nowhere to be seen. She says he's gone to Monarch Studios to fetch something important, so that's where we're off to next. Slushing our way through the studio, we finally find the elusive cunt, and he sprays us right in the face with a fire extinguisher, like a little prick. It's here that we're introduced to the next mini-boss, that we dubbed the Fat Cunt. These enemies are absolutely geeked and are able to do tackies on command to spew out acid onto survivors. I try and get a bit creative and try to use the movie set to try and kill him, setting off a massive acid spew from this giant spider. To absolutely no one's surprise, this does nothing because it turns out the acid spewing enemy is actually immune to acid attacks. Ignoring that, we absolutely carve up this fat dog and return to Michael. It turns out he put his and our lives on the line so that he could recover one of Emma's shit-ass awards. What a retard. We tell him to go back to Emma's, and Sam calls us and tells us he's got a lead on where some guns might be stashed. It's good news and all, but I'm really not sure how we haven't got any guns by this point. I mean, we're literally in America, but you know, just roll with it. What are you gonna do? We meet up with Sam and the ear bleeding guy, but I think he has a bit more than his ears to worry about now.
Oh, he's
fucked.
He's not living. He's not living.
Nah.
New boss fight, new enemy. This creature has the ability to scream louder than when white women hear a thunderstorm, which will slow us down. I think we called this one like Screamer or Screamin' Bitch. I don't really remember, but you shouldn't really be expecting much from these names after the first two anyways. We managed to shut her up, then get inside and grab the guns before practicing our Second Amendment right to clear out the rest of the zombies. Now that the gang's all back together, minus the ear bleeding guy, we can go get Emma to come with us to Santa Monica. Not really too sure why we needed her, like we could have just left on our own, survival of the fittest and shit, but hey, the story goes on. We find her in the gym with Sam and Michael. Turns out that Michael's been bit. Womp womp, shouldn't have gone back for that dumbass trophy. I 200 pump the dog and Emma gets all pissy and tells us to leave her house, and that's exactly what we do. We head to the sewers to get to Santa Monica, the thing we probably should have done ages ago. Down there we run into this weird bloke called Patton. Turns out he's been living down here ever since he returned after fighting in the Gulf War. He asks us if we want to punch out some cones and watch some movies, but unfortunately for us, this isn't a pick your own story kind of game. Reluctantly moving on, we head further into the sewers where we come across this weird lass who's barefooted in a zombie apocalypse, very unhygienic, and a gang of fentanyl addicts. She spits out a whole bunch of hippie bullshit before Big Mate here uses his ultimate fent move, knocking us down into the zombie pit below. We emerge in fury mode. This is actually a spot-on depiction of the average Aussie leaving the pub hammered after being down $200 on the pokes. We emerge in Venice Beach, which if you look closely enough is actually entirely based on Vespucci Beach from GTA 5. You can tell by the way that it is. We enter the cafe where this group of stoner survivors are held up at. Everything's all well and good until Big Girl here appears to start greening out. Please, never do drug, kids. This happens. Instead of covering up the hole that the giant zombie just made, old mate here decides to pick up the brain-covered doob and have a drag. What an alpha move. Instead of progressing to Santa Monica, like we should be, we decide to help out Alex here, who's paranoid that his zombie friends are going to come back to eat him. We find the first one at the gym, getting his guts pumped by Patton. Patton shows us that we can use certain zombie parts to modify our weapons to give them special zombie killing abilities. Thankful for this knowledge, we let Patton get back to what he was doing and continue our search for the last zombie bro. We find him and show him that no matter how big and tough you may seem, it doesn't mean you will win every fight, especially if the person you're fighting has a gun. We get back to Alex and tell him that his friends are now double dead, and we continue on to Santa Monica. We get there and are met with what I can only imagine is the typical American greeting before being let inside. We finally meet with Big Dr. Reed, and he tells us that the military won't extract us until they know that we're immune. Because of this, he asks us to go to his lab on the beach to take some samples for proof. So we do. But the cheeky dog tells us over the radio that now we have to find his blood drive, which is like a computer or something. The search leads us to the end of the pier, where we crack open the computer to try and log in. Turns out the computer actually has some wicked cybersecurity though, and we get jumped by this clown fella for getting the password wrong. He knocks us out, and when we wake up, we see him passionately making out with a man before turning his attention to us. He tries to do the same thing to us, but I tell him I got my miso back at home, and he can't have me. This enrages him, beginning the boss fight. This enemy is a super agile freak with sword-like arms. They're also able to mung on nearby corpses to regenerate health. Continuing our streak of awesome boss names, we decide to call this new enemy the Knife Guy. He tries his best to survive the onslaught that is Connor and I, but at the end of the day, he's simply just not tough enough. We grab the computer and head back to Dr. Reed. We get there and find out that Dr. Reed's actually into dirty bitches, because guess who's there? This barefooted freak. Turns out these two go way back, but in the middle of our convo, big movie star Jimmy Montana bursts in and says that Dr. Reed's daughter Tisha has gone missing. Dr. Reed asks us to go look for her, and like the good Samaritans we are, we accept. We track her down and tell her about how her dad's keeping secrets, like how he hangs out with the feet lady. Tisha says that the feet lady owns his tech store or something. I don't really give a shit, but she gives us a code phrase to use on the scope there. It's kind of like an Alexa or Google Home or, other things like that. She also invites us into something called the Mushroom Club. Don't really know what it is, but I hope it involves more mushies than mushroom tips. We get to the store and say the code phrase to the scope. It plays a recording of Dr. Reed which shows that he knew other immune survivors before us. We're then sent a message on our phone. I was expecting a cheeky message from my sneaky link Sydney Sweeney, but instead it was the location of Dr. Reed's lab. We rock up and see what's become of the previous survivor. Either Dr. Reed's experiments went sour and left him looking all deformed and mank, or he was just a meth junkie before the outbreak. Either way, we find out that his name's Noah, and we try wake him up so we can get some answers. Turns out Big Dog didn't want to be woken up though, because he activates his fucko mode to try and murk us. This is the final boss type zombie added to the game, and listen, by this point we've already used all our creative juices. Among other juices, wink wink. So when it came down to naming this absolute monstrosity of a creature, we decided to just call him Noah. Yep, every other time we saw one of these freaks in the wild, we just yelled out, "Look out, there's a Noah!" Anyways, after a big boss fight like that, we were bound to feel a bit peckish, so we took a quick nibble of this fella. Tisha rocks up, but it turns out she's not into cannibalism or something, so she stabs us in the neck and leaves us to die. Then the foot lady and her Fent gang show up, and she takes the arrow out of our neck. Then she tells us that we're all something called a Newman. It's like the peak of human evolution, which explains our zombie powers, I think. But come on, that's full on bullshit. We all know what the peak of human evolution looks like, right?
Me? Just hanging around.
We get back to the hotel and find out that Dr. Reed and Tisha took a helicopter and flew to Hollywood Boulevard. This is where we finally give up on finding a cure, and we decide it's finally time to escape this hellhole. We call up Emma and tell her there's a helicopter that we can hijack to get out of here. We meet up with her and Sam outside Patton's place. Turns out that Patton is Emma's #1 fan, and with some convincing, we recruit him to be our getaway pilot. We then fight our way through the underground railway until we reach an exit. Patton doesn't want to go up though. He's been smoking doobs and rewatching the same movie so much that he's become too scared to return to the surface. Emma manages to calm him down, and with the power of her trophy and the escalator, we return to the surface. Looks like that trophy did come in handy. We get to the helicopter, and this is it. We're finally getting out of LA, is what I would be saying if it wasn't for Sam B collapsing right before hopping on the chopper. Turns out that he got bit in the tunnels, and that he's also not immune to these zombies because they're different or something. I don't know. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but at some point while snooping through Reed's stuff, we actually find out that it was him who started the outbreak. Yeah, big twist. Bump bump bump. Anyways, with Sam about to turn into a zombie and cop a bullet from Emma, we decided now is a good time to go and stop Dr. Reed. And with some encouragement from Patton, we were off. We track him down to a secret lab where we confront him and Tisha and tell her that he was the one who started the outbreak. She asks him why, and he spits out a bunch of exposition bullshit about how humans' days are numbered and how he spiked her with human DNA before she was even born. He creates a one-shot cure before suffering from penis cramps and becoming a Noah. This is it. the final showdown, the ultimate climax of the story. You know what? I think I'll let the whole clip play for itself, because this is going to be absolutely badass.
Good music, bro.
That gun, bitch.
Your playbook's looking fishy.
So easy.
What the fuck? The other zombies didn't even get to come out.
We're too fucking good, cunt.
Fucking slammed.
Oh, well, that was anticlimactic. Either the game wasn't scaled for multiple people, or we were just too damn goated. Like, I'm pretty sure zombies were supposed to come out of these tubes and make it harder, but we just fucked them up so damn quickly. Kinda sucks. Anyways, with Reed down and a cure in our possession, we head back to the chopper, give Sam B the cure, and then we are out of here. Is once again what I would be saying, but instead of leaving, we decide to stay for some reason. I don't know, maybe to find another cure or something, but like, what happened to wanting to escape so that Amy can join the Paralympic team? Or for Ryan to reunite with his brother? None of that matters anymore, I guess. I was originally going to name this video, "This is how we escaped LA," but after seeing the ending, I had to scrap that idea. Anyways, after a bit of trouble, the crew flies off while we hang back to continue our zombie massacre. And that is how we survived LA.